Episode 2 of the Soxcast, up and running. And Blue Sox legends, we have a lot of them. Taylor Olmstead being the first guest. I mean, he essentially laid the groundwork for a lot of the 3-year veterans that we've had in Utica over the years. And the second player to do that is joining me now. Had an in-between year in 2018, but still 3 seasons in the blue and white. And he made his last one count, leading the PGCBL in hits, top 10 in batting average, and shot up the all-time leaderboards in Blue Sox history, third in games played, third in a lot of categories, only behind, of course, 2 guys that, he had familiarity with, both with Taylor being at the beginning of his run and then Luis De Leon at the end. But, of course, legendary Blue Sox first baseman and now founder, CEO, whatever, like what have you, of Juco Product, a product that has become, a staple of Utica Blue Sox apparel, none other than Robbie Young. Robbie, it's great having you, call in all the way from the good old South, man.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. You texted me trying to line up all this or this interview or really just this Zoom call, and I was excited the moment I got the text. Anytime I can kind of get back to Utica and the city and kind of talk about my memories playing summer ball up there. Of course, they were great. I spent 3 summers up there, had a lot of great memories, a championship run. It's always fun to talk about.
So, first and foremost, I mean, obviously, we talk about like college baseball is one thing, like it's gotten a lot of attention just because of the zaniness. And I think part of why college baseball now has gotten even more crazy, and you see more of the characters and charisma and the fun of college baseball. I feel like a lot of that precipitates from these summer leagues. I mean, how much can you say to that just based on your experience, at least in Utica?
Well, I would say that summer ball is a unique experience just to begin with, because you're only with that set team for like literally 2.5, 3 months. And so like, it's a unique situation. You show up on day one, you don't know anybody in the locker room. Maybe you might know one guy or you're familiar with one guy, but summer ball is just a unique situation where you just show up and kind of get to know the guys. And even when you do get to know them, there's a lot of injuries during summer ball. So there's always like this influx and flow of players throughout the summer. And some of my best friendships weren't made necessarily at my 4-year institution or junior college. Some of my best friendships were from summer ball. I mean, Franklin Jennings, T.O., all those guys, like I still text, I still communicate with. And so I guess that's what makes summer ball and collegiate sports so special, is because you get to make those bonds that last a lifetime. And it's just kind of cool. We're a couple years away from that summer, my first summer in Utica, when we made the championship run. And it's kind of cool to keep up with everybody even now, and kind of see where their lives are at. T.O., of course, still playing indie ball, or at least last time I checked, he was playing indie ball and being really successful. So I'm glad to see that. And Franklin Jennings, he's still the coach at Central Connecticut. So that's always good to see too.
So that first summer when he got here, that was the first summer of Utica returning to its roots with the Blue Sox name. I mean, very rarely, guys will like just go wherever and like, okay, I'm here to play ball. But like, did you ever, take the time, try to look up, why that summer and why the Blue Sox name returning was like such a big deal to the city, and why all, fans came out way more in droves? And, like Taylor probably told you about like how a lot of the times that were named under the Brewers name the year before, it was kind of dead, but it was jumping most of the time with the Blue Sox name back in town.
No, and you bring up a valid point, and the fact that I really didn't understand that until I actually put on the blue and white, put on my uniform, and went actually out and played. That was when I really realized the impact that we made in the community. And, obviously hearing from past players, they realized, oh man, the dramatic shift between being the Brewers, now being the Blue Sox, and the pride in that too. Knowing that there were some great players that wore that uniform, before us in the minor league system, and then carrying on that tradition into summer league. That was a really cool thing, and you could tell in the community when they showed up to the ball game that it was a different feel than in years past.
So take me back to the moment you when you first arrived in Utica, because I know you drove this big white pickup truck, and I remember that vividly.
Yes.
So take me to the moment when you finally finished your trek all the way from Louisville, Kentucky, to the wonderful Utica, New York.
No, I made that trek quite a bit in my 3 summers, there and back for 3 summers. So I drove those roads. I played junior college baseball out in Kansas, and that was probably closer to 18 to 20 hour drive with stops. So long distance drives, that's always been kind of part of my baseball career. And so when I went up to Utica, a little bit different, it's a little bit different feel to the town and everything, but the people were great, very supportive. And there's a reason why I came back for 3 summers, and I really fell in love with the town and didn't think twice after that first season I was coming back.
So that first summer, I think that really set the tone for, and it also helps when, you won a West Division title, go to the championship series of the PGCBL, but I think the first few weeks, it probably solidified that in your head in terms of just the dramatics and walk-off city being born. How insane was it? I talked to Taylor before, and he obviously said, I feel like you and a lot of other players would echo this sentiment. You don't want to win games like that. You don't want it to come down to the last at bat, but when you do it that many times in such a short span, it just stands out. So, what do you recall just from the dramatics of, winning in walk-off fashion, 4 times in the span of 2 weeks, and then the last 3 of those coming in the span of literally 1 week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was that first summer, as crazy as it sounds, I think as a team, we were kind of all over the place, kind of figuring out our role on the team, what positions we'd be playing. Because if you remember, I came in as an outfielder. And it just so happened that one of the first basemen got hurt like the week before, I think, that we were supposed to report up in Utica, and they ended up moving me to first base, which is the position I've always played. And I finished out my career at first base. But it was kind of like a weird dynamic of everybody trying to feel each other out, trying to get the chemistry going. And then it was all of a sudden, like what you said, all of a sudden, we get one big hit and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's great. And everybody starts building that chemistry. And then the next night we found ourselves in like the same situation and we had to get another big hit. And as you go through those emotions, you get really close as a team. And eventually like that emotional high of winning a walk-off, it was there, but it was almost like it became to steady out, as the season went on. And we were like, yeah, we're actually a good team. Like it's not odd to win on a walk-off. We just began to expect it almost because we went through, like what you said, so many in a 2-week span. It was just kind of like, oh, here we go. Let's go take care of business.
And the funny thing was, all 4 of those walk-offs in that first half of the season, it was a different player each time. And, I think that just is a microcosm for what that team was about. And, that run catapulted you to being, one of the top ranked teams in all of summer college baseball. And man, I wish they ranked, those summer college teams like they did back then, because it was a lot of fun tracking where you were. You came in number 20 up to number 12 and then as high as number 9 in the country. How much were you guys kind of paying attention to that, and how exciting was it just to see your name listed as one of the best summer college teams this country had to offer?
No, it was cool. I can't remember. I think there was a couple of people that texted me about it actually, and was like, "Hey, you're playing for the Utica Blue Sox. You guys are ranked." And it was awesome to be a part of a team like that. And like what you said, once those rankings went up, we just kind of turned into a different team. When we went to 20, then to 18, then to 9, or whatever those numbers were, our confidence just kind of went with it. Like we just started playing together. We knew that we were going to win. We knew we had a good shot of winning the whole thing. And so the rankings, believe it or not, I think it did play a role a little bit in our confidence. And as we moved throughout the season, we increased, some, we decreased some, but I think we ended up, were we still in that? I don't remember at the end of the season.
By the end of the season, I think you kind of like fizzled out because, I mean, certain guys went down and, you had to play some, mainly on the pitching side. But, how big was it bringing in, 2 guys to help round out the rotation like Webke and Gus Varlin coming in from Concordia St. Paul, and then another arm to solidify the bullpen, and a guy who, made his first AAA appearance not too long ago at the end of the year, one Bear Bellamy.
No, that was incredible. And those are I don't want to call it luck, but when you get new guys on the team, you really have no idea. Like you're just going off of a coach's word, or you're going off of a contact that you have. And all of a sudden these guys start showing up that were just loaded arms. And we were like, oh, okay, we'll take those guys, so it was huge for us because as the summer goes on, people start getting tired, and to have those guys who were technically fresh arms that took some time off in between their season and summer ball, and then kind of coming in at the end of the summer, it was huge for us. And it really carried us and maybe was the deciding factor in Elmira. If you think back on that they rode that one pitcher from Kentucky till the very end, and we ended up beating him. Maybe he was tired, maybe that was a factor in it all.
So, the funny thing is, let's talk about right before that series against Elmira. You're in a win or go home scenario in round 1 of the playoffs, and you're playing Jamestown. And I'm pretty sure there was a rain delay that lasted like at least an hour, if I'm not mistaken. And you had to battle the weather, and then you had to battle back kind of like you did all year. You get down 1-0. Webke, 6 shutout innings, but he couldn't get any run support, which was unfortunate. But the 7th inning comes around. CJ Pickering hits a leadoff bomb, and you guys are down 1-0. So going into that bottom of the inning, thankfully, Webke does get that run support, and in a big part, Mason came up with a big 2-run knock. Baldy got an insurance run, and then you came on as defensive replacement in the 8th inning. For Mason, who just got that big hit. What was it like walking into that, big time scenario? You're 6 outs away from moving on, getting the Blue Sox their first PGCBL playoff win in advance for the first time ever, and going and helping out a guy who bulldogged his way 8 innings, and then Ryan Green mowing them down in the 9th inning for another save.
Yeah, that was a fun memory, and I actually do remember that game. And anytime you play a game where if you lose, you're done, it means a little bit more. Obviously you want your season to continue to carry on. But going into that game, it was kind of crazy. Me and Mason, we switched in and out a lot for the summer, and so he ended up getting hot near the end and starting a few more games in the end. But I don't know. We just continue to work together. The coaching staff continued to work with me. And I know that offensively, I didn't perform like I wanted to my first year. But we kind of all the whole team worked, whether we were playing or whether we weren't. And there was always a rotation of guys. So when that time came, we were all ready. And that goes back to even the pitchers that came in late. To even position players that had to be subbed in defensively or pinch hit or whatever, or that team was resilient. And that's why it was so much fun to play on that team, because, you knew you weren't going to play every day. And so you just relied on your other teammate to take care of business. And in the moment something happens with him, you go in and you take care of business. So that part was cool. That was especially, and I'll say this, that was really cool in a young athletic career for me to learn that too, because, I was a freshman in college, and you're used to high school ball where I want to play every game. And so that was a great learning experience for me to carry that even into Elmira at such a young point in my athletic career, to kind of learn what collegiate sports was about.
And I think that transitions perfectly into the next question I was going to ask. So game one.
Sorry.
No. Actually, that's a great thing you did that. So West Division Championship Series, you win game one. You shut Elmira out at Dunfield, and Craig Prince pitched a gem. Ryan Green shuts the door again. But, I mean, it comes at a price. I mean, we talked about Taylor beforehand, and he tore his pec, unfortunately. And, he was part of the, I wouldn't say he was the straw that started the drink, but he was an important piece of that championship puzzle that you guys needed. And then Mason, funny enough, he went down with a separate injury. So now you would have stepped in as the starting first baseman. And obviously the offense took a step back in game two, but you got to credit a guy like Sean Jelly, who was just mowing everybody down that game. So you had a chance to close out that series in Utica, but couldn't, thanks to just a brilliant individual pitching performance. And I love this story for those people that don't know. Game three, you guys are about to take the bus to Elmira, but you don't go right to Elmira. Am I right? Picking up somebody at the Syracuse airport. Mike Warren.
Who?
Mike Warren. He left because he thought there wasn't a postseason, and then he went home to Georgia, and then somehow, some way, we got him back, and y'all picked him up at the airport right before game three of that championship.
Yeah. I do remember, now that you say that, I do remember that. I think there was an intern that came and picked him back up, but he showed up to the game, like ready to play type of deal. I don't think we took the bus there, but I just know that I think he thought our season was done or something, got a flight, then the intern went and got him, and then he was just magically there, and we just went and played. I completely forgot about that, but that is a crazy story. Yeah.
He's yeah, no, I thought we were done. And then he just magically appears at Dunfield after he had missed the first three postseason games.
Yeah. No, that was crazy. That was.
So take me through the highs and lows of that deciding game three, because, I mean, Mark Moriarty had to go to the bullpen early in that game. It was back and forth, but you came up with a big knock. Mitch had a big knock in that game as well, and so it's 2-2 going to the eighth inning, and their all-star closers coming in, Parker Karachi. Knowing that you guys had faced him several times before, were you all kind of just looking at yourself okay, we've seen this guy before, and this is our time. We could take this guy and we can beat him.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you play a team multiple times in the season, you start to get a personal scouting report, if you will. You see what his fastball looks like, you see what his off speed looks like, and so you're able to make in-game adjustments. I don't remember the specific adjustments I made against him or any of our team made against him, but anytime you face the same pitcher over and over, eventually you're going to get a hit off of him, and eventually you're going to capitalize in a big situation. And I remember specifically with is his name Sean Jelly? I know Jelly was his last name, but I remember specifically saying our whole team knew, okay, we're going to get him this time. He's dominated us all year. We're going to get him. And then he throws the shutout. And again, the emotional roller coaster of oh, we thought we were going to eliminate him at home. Now we got to go back to their place. It was emotional, and we just kind of found our backs against the walls, and we were able to find a big W. I can remember a big situation. I don't know if the bases were loaded or if it was first and second, but I jumped up in the air, caught the line drive, which would have either saved the game or kept them from breaking the tie, something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, anytime you're in a hostile environment like that, that place was packed. It was loud. They've won all year long. They're a good team. It was good to go in and beat them.
And, I think a lot of people don't really understand, how hostile of an environment Elmira is. Granted, they still pack it with, 3,000 to 5,000 fans a night usually. But in that kind of environment, they're a little on edge. They're a little more intense than usual. But, what do you remember from, them getting the lead and then you guys going back in front late in the game? And then, of course, and the performance that Ryan Green had, because he got out of 2 bases loaded jams, and you mentioned one of them and how you saved it. But what was it like just watching him just be so masterful in those kind of situations in that postseason?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I just remember a dogfight, and really, it backs even all the way throughout our whole season against Elmira. I think to paint a bigger picture, I think we were having dogfights with them since like game one of the season. So like back and forth all season long, and then summer ball, you play these guys like it felt like I know we didn't, but it felt like every other night. So when you're playing this team over and over and over again, they're close games every game. And just to continue dominating when, their hitters have seen our pitchers too, so they have their own personal scouting report. So to be able to go out and dominate and continue dominating all year, that's huge. That was huge.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, so I got to ask about this. I mean, Ryan Green came in relatively early in the season. I think it was like a week or two into the season. He had pitched in the Juco World Series with Niagara County Community College. But for some reason, so you obviously called him new guy right when he got there, but that nickname stuck the entire summer. Like, I mean, whose idea was it? I mean, obviously, if you want to call him new guy then and there, fine. But why did that stick for him the whole year?
I think it was like T.O. and me that came up with the nickname or something. It was maybe it was Franklin. I don't know. It was just funny because we did have such a change of players throughout that whole summer. So there was always the coin phrase, oh, here's a new guy, new guy, new guy. And it just so happened that like he went out and we were all calling him new guy, and he just like shoved his first appearance, and we're like, well, we're sticking with it. And like he was a big kind of goofy kind of guy, and so he loved it, and we stuck with it. He kept pitching well, and we didn't change it.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what do you remember just from seeing Ryan Green strike out? I believe it was Connor Burns for the final out of that of that series. Running out on the field. I mean, you were on the field when it happened, but just the celebration that ensued, on the field, and then after that long 3-hour bus ride back to Utica.
Yeah, I mean, that will be a memory that I'll always have. I never, in my baseball career, I never really won a championship. That was probably the closest I ever was. And that was a cool moment. And I think what put the icing on the cake was just the fact that we were at Elmira. If we were in Utica, that would have been cool. Absolutely. And that would have been a memory of itself. But just the fact that we had to go on the road, we had our backs against the walls. 2 of our great players went down on injuries. They were in a hostile environment, yelling all types of stuff at us. It just made it special. And the 3-hour bus ride on the way back home was very special as well.
I mean, unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. And that championship series against Amsterdam, I think, at least what I thought was, you guys just ran out of gas, and Amsterdam, being the machine that they were, the machine did what it was programmed to do, which was win baseball games. I mean, obviously, you can make the argument things could have gone a little bit differently had Taylor and Mason been healthy. And same, Mike Hope went down, a couple weeks before the postseason started, unfortunately. But, what do you remember just from, having your season end? I mean, obviously, you got to give props to Amsterdam because they field such great teams year after year. But obviously, having your season end, getting swept, and specifically in game 2, losing 13-2 to have your season end like that. What do you remember from it looking back now, and essentially how that shaped the rest of your time in Utica, and obviously in everywhere else you went for college ball?
Yeah, I think it was, again, I go back to what a perfect and great opportunity it was to play with such a group of old guys and mature guys. And I don't mean old as in bad, because if you looked at that team, there was a lot of juniors and seniors on that team. So they approached the game a whole lot differently than some of these young guns that come in expecting to play. That was me, that year. And so it was just a great opportunity. It was a learning experience. And even though, we ended that year getting 13-2, beat down pretty good, it was a really humbling experience to see those guys really care about Utica, really care about winning, really care about each other. Even when we did get beat down against Amsterdam, they did have a great team. But we knew we left it all out on the field. And I think that is a completely different feeling when you've given it everything you've got. And that team was injured, battered. We had won on walk-offs. We'd been to Elmira and beat them. So it was like, yeah, I mean, we wanted to win, absolutely. But just that whole learning experience for me, I was blessed to have such great role models at such an early part in my athletic career. That's what shaped and what carried me forward in a lot of those years too, when I went to junior college and went to Division I after that. Yeah, it was just even those players, some of them got drafted, some of them didn't. Some of the best players I've ever played with never got drafted, off that team. So it was just a great experience, very mature team. They knew how to handle business. They went to work every single day, and they really didn't care about what was going on outside, of the locker room. So it was a really cool experience.
So you come back for the summer of 2017, and I think the luster of what happened the year before, I think it kind of just wore away for whatever reason. I mean, 3-0 start, and then things really started to go downhill. I think you guys lost like 10 in a row, and you yourself, were struggling at the plate as well, and eventually, you actually had to step away, like right around the end of June as well. I mean, I can't even imagine like how hard it was to leave, granted, and especially in the environment that was happening around you where, team was starting to lose a lot. But, what was it like, stepping back? I know, again, or how hard it was, to step away at that point.
Sure. Yeah. That was a weird summer for me, for a lot of different reasons. It was a transition summer. So I was in my transition process in my junior college. So it was tough. I mean, I came in, expecting that same feel and that same mentality from that group of guys from the year before. And that team was like the polar opposite. And so I had to make a decision for what I felt was right for my athletic career. And that was to change leagues, change to a different team. But I mean, it was hard. It was really hard because I felt really connected, obviously, to the owner, and to the coaching staff there. And it was difficult, but I felt like it was the right thing to do for my athletic career, especially, with the transition process going from Division III to JUCO. So yeah, I mean, looking back on it, do I wish, I could have stayed in Utica? Probably. I mean, I really do. I think that would have probably helped me more than going to a different team, and sticking it out. But like I said, the culture there from year one to year two was polar opposite. And that wasn't even necessarily due to coaches. That was just the athletes and the players that were in the locker room. And it was just tough to play, and it was tough to step away too. So I was kind of caught in between.
So you end up, I believe you didn't play anywhere in 2018. You were really focused on creating what, you are fully involved now with your life, which is Juco Product. And, I really think, with that group of guys, especially with the amount of Juco products that they had, it was like a perfect storm for you. So first of all, what led to you coming up with this concept and this business and putting it into essentially, making it a reality, from a dream to reality, and then having it implemented in a place where, you kind of gotten attached to over the years before that?
Yeah. So junior college just really changed my life in a lot of different ways. It really matured me, made me step back and really evaluate, do I really want to play baseball? And I always had the dream of playing Division I baseball. And so my only real option out of Division III was to go junior college. And so I just found myself a home in Garden City, Kansas, and I won't bore you with that whole story on how that all happened. But, and so when I was out there in Garden City, I just realized the drastic need for attention for athletes, for students, for professors, all of the above in the junior college school system because they don't get the attention that they really deserve. I mean, you've got crazy stories from guys that were athletes, that were football players, that went to a big 4-year school, ended up either getting in trouble or whatever, and junior college was the only route for them. And I know of one guy in particular, went 4-year. I think he either couldn't afford it or something happened in his family where he had to come back home and start working. And he was on like working on ships, like in the ocean. He was just out there scrubbing docks and doing all that kind of stuff. Spent a year doing that, went back to junior college, found a Division I scholarship from junior college, and finished out his career in the NFL. So that, like, those type of stories is why I started the company that I did, was just to create an apparel company, for one, to provide apparel, but also provide a clothing apparel line that people can be really proud of and proud to represent, and kind of share their own story, if you will, because I really do believe that this company, the goal and the reason why I started it was to impact lives. And I think I can really keep impacting a lot more lives moving forward.
Yeah. So that, putting that, Juco Product name onto Utica Blue Sox apparel, like, how cool was that? And, also, forging a lot of, good relationships with, a lot of the guys, again, on that roster who were, in fact, Juco products.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It means a lot. Anytime you can put your name on a reputable brand like the Utica Blue Sox, or a reputable team or reputable company, whatever the case may be. I mean, it means a lot. And two, being a Juco product is a bond, and it's a respected group of individuals. And for me, being able to relate to those guys and their experiences in junior college, that helped a ton. And it's really, it's how you can build a really good team, in my opinion. But yeah, it's just really cool. It's really cool.
So obviously, you ended up at Division I, like you mentioned, ending up at Appalachian State, a very good program in their own right. In a beautiful, setting in the Appalachian Mountains. I literally just saw the photo of the fall foliage, right around your stadium, and it's just chef's kiss at how perfect it is, especially in that time of the year. But I feel like, was coming back to Utica for one final run, was that something you were trying to tell yourself, like, I want to go out on the right note in Utica?
Oh yeah. I mean, you're gonna start touching on some I don't know. You're gonna start touching on some emotion there, I guess. I mean, yeah, I wanted to go out the right way. I wanted to go out selfishly, the way that I know I could perform at. And I just knew that I wanted to leave anything that I interact with in my life. I want to be able to leave it better than the way I found it. And I just felt like coming back to Utica and finishing the job that I started was very important to me. And that's the same reason why I went back for my COVID year at App State. I felt like there was a job that needed to be completed, and that's why I did it.
So when you got back to Utica, did you kind of get the sense that, like, okay, I'm probably going to have to be, the captain of this group? And I mean, and did you pick up anything along the way from a guy who, was captaining you when you were a freshman 3 years prior to that? Of course, I'm referring to Frank Jennings.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about two great, some of the best leaders I've ever played with. Taylor Olmstead and Franklin Jennings. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. When I came back for my final year, I didn't expect, to come in and just be a leader, blah, 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 blah. Like, I just wanted to play well. And if the cards flipped in my favor, then great, but, I just know that I wanted to carry on the tradition of great leadership on that team. Taylor Olmstead and Franklin, of course, was really the first pillar. And I wanted to owe it to them to kind of come back and play the exact way that they would have wanted me to play or wanted themselves to play. And so, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really how all great organizations are ran. is you get some great individuals in there, and all of a sudden it becomes a standard. Every year we get back Luis De Leon, another one, big time culture piece that are leaders in the locker room and want to perform well and work hard every single day.
And speaking of Lou, I think the real moment where where the 2019 season like shifted in the direction that you guys wanted to go on was the day after the 4th of July. Lou comes back after missing the last couple weeks, and you play Amsterdam. And not only do you play, you beat Amsterdam, pardon my language, you kicked their ass.
Yeah.
Pretty well. You gave him a good old beating, and Lou hit a big home run, and offense was clicking. You got a big RBI knock, and the offense as a whole was just clicking as well. But obviously that set the stage for the win streak you guys got on to overtake Geneva, top the West. Looking back on that, how important was it to win that game against Amsterdam, getting Lou back in the process and riding that wave of momentum like you did in the month of July?
Yeah, I don't really remember specifically that game, but I do remember the importance of Luis coming back. And I do remember he came back and went 2 for 4. Like he just like he'd never been hurt. Like he just started right back up again. And I do know the importance he had in our lineup. He really balanced out our lineup, really gave us some juice, gave us some power, gap to gap power, as well as could leave the yard at any moment. And so, yeah, he played a crucial role in that season. Absolutely. And especially when he came back from being injured. Yeah.
So the game where you did overtake Geneva for the division lead, it was Boilermaker Sunday. And, you won in a way against Geneva that you got awfully familiar with, over the years. And that was via the walk-off. And it was one of the guys who, will be joining you in terms of the company of being a 3-year guy. And that, of course, I'm referring to a local product of the Utica area, of course, Ryan Enos. And that was a pitcher's duel. You drove in the only run for Utica prior to that walk-off. But seeing a guy like Ryan come through in that way, how special was that? And, did you guys kind of know, once you took over first in that moment, there's no way they're catching us now?
Yeah. I don't really think that we kind of thought like that, in all honesty. I think that we knew that we had to prove ourselves each and every day. And I especially know that Ryan doesn't think like that, because Ryan's a real hard worker, hard-nosed kid. He's a baller. He is a tough kid, and to see him walk off against, or get the walk-off hit against Geneva, that was a really big confidence point in his season too. He really turned around his season at that point. But quite frankly, that's him in a nutshell. He's a tough, gritty player. Will give you everything he's got. And in those big moments, all that work ethic that he does before the games really shine through. And that was the boost that we needed to really kind of take off from Geneva. But I wouldn't say we got it taken care of. We really did have to work for that win. And I do remember that game, and I'm just glad that Ryan came through with the big hit.
So I got to ask you, because the next day you had an exhibition game against the Syracuse Saltcats.
Yeah.
This is the most exciting exhibition game I've ever seen for multiple reasons. First off, it ended in a tie, which was something in and of itself. Secondly, Brenton Phillips had an all-time great entrance that I helped organize with him, coming out to Wild Thing, complete with glasses and leather vest, which was unbelievable. And then watching from the sidelines, because you had the day off that day, what was it like watching a guy like John Franchi come to the plate, get a knock, and then score the tying run, which would end up being the last run of the game?
No, I know. It was probably the most energetic exhibition you'll ever watch. It was funny because everybody was like, oh, exhibition game, whatever. And next thing you know, the fans showed up. There was energy in the ballpark. We had an intern come in and hit. We had, I don't know, it's a show. It was really fun. It was entertaining, and that'll be something I always remember, especially Brenton coming in and pitching and actually doing well. Is cool to watch.
And I remember his first warm up pitch, like he intentionally airmailed into the netting in the back, which
Yeah.
I'm like, that's an intimidation tactic. That's a damn good one.
Yeah. No, 100%.
But, yeah. So, I mean, what made winning the regular season division title that year different from winning it, in the playoffs like you did in 2016? Because, I mean, obviously, winning in the postseason is different than regular season, but, that was the first regular season division title that Utica had won in that league.
I wouldn't really say. I don't know when we won it in the playoffs. I think that meant a little bit more because we always had that chip on our shoulder, that we knew we were the best, even though we weren't. And then follow it up a couple years later, win it in the regular season. It was a little bit of a different feel. We now had the target on our back. Everybody wanted to beat the number one team regular season, blah, blah, blah. So it was a different feel, different perspective on it. And unfortunately, we did lose that year, but still a great season, still great memories.
So, obviously for as great of a season as you had as a team, and then for you individually, leading the PGCBL in hits and being among the top 10 in batting average, and we talked about unfinished business. I mean, would you say business partially was unfinished because of the fact that you got the way that you guys went out, losing a game that, and again, no disrespect to Adirondack because they ended up going to the championship series, but losing in the way that you did against a team, again, like I said, they should have beat, considering how shorthanded they were with Adirondack, especially in Utica.
So what was the question? I'm sorry.
In terms of like having it being like, I know you came back for unfinished business, and in a way, business necessarily wasn't finished because of the fact that you unfortunately didn't go back to the championship series and didn't leave Utica in your last year without a ring.
Sure. You can say that. I mean, I think the way that I would phrase it would be I gave it everything I had, and I was satisfied internally with my individual effort. And, unfortunately, the team underperformed, I guess, especially being regular season champions, and then falling into the play-in game or the elimination game. But that stuff happens. I mean, it's baseball, and every day you have to suit up and go play. And you never know once it comes playoff time, who's hot, who's not, who won the last 10 games, who lost the last 10 games. You never know. It comes down to one game. The ball bounced their way for the day. But that doesn't take away anything that we've accomplished throughout the entire season. And for me individually, I mean, my job was finished at that point. I gave it everything I got.
And like, how important, like, do you think the way that you played that summer, like how important was that, the COVID shortened year of 2020, and then your final season of eligibility at Appalachian State being a first team all Sunbelt, right?
Yeah, Sunbelt.
I got it. So yeah.
No, it was critical. I mean, I want to thank Todd, and I want to thank all the coaching staff that really helped me. Doug Dillette, another one. Offensively, we really worked hard that summer, and there really wasn't very many days that I wasn't in a cage hitting with several other guys, Luis being one of them. And we just really worked hard on my offensive skill set. And it proved to be extremely fruitful when I went back to App State. And even though the pitching was a little bit better at App State, it was very cool to really stay in rhythm with things when it comes to summer ball and seeing pitchers. And yeah, it was huge. It was huge. Absolutely.
So, did you, I mean, obviously you had the talent to maybe go to the next level of baseball and, turn that into your profession. But funny thing was, like I was talking to you, right around draft time. I'm like, are you trying to go pro? But, like you were pretty clear, and I feel like you must've been at peace to know that, like, I'm good with what I did in my career, and I know what the next step in my journey is going to be, which was continuing on with the business that you started 3 years ago. And then obviously, after the season, I think it was either at the end of the summer or early this fall, I definitely want to, tap the glass for little how do I say this? With tying the knot.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always, I try to live life is with the coin phrase of living with no regrets. And I was just always satisfied. I knew how hard I worked. I knew where I started and where I finished. And so I just know what a crazy journey that was, and I felt very humbled, to be able to put on a jersey anytime, because I knew how hard I worked. I knew the difficulty and the path that I traveled. I accepted that, and for me, I had this company and this business plan, and I owned a business, and so I was ready for that to really take off too, because again, I could really see it taking off, and so I was okay with it ending. If the professional scene were to present itself, that's one thing, but I was okay with it being done. I was ready to move on, and of course, like what you said, I did get married, and so that obviously played a factor in it as well. And so yeah, I'm very content and very happy. Absolutely.
And I feel like you must be content, especially with the change within the college sports landscape. Obviously, that you're well aware of, with NIL and athletes being able to get endorsement deals, and how much of a blessing was that for the NCAA to open that door up and essentially open the door for your business to really capitalize.
Yeah, so it was huge, right? I mean, literally, as soon as I came back for the summer, that rule changed. And so, right when I was really hitting the ground running, the NIL deal broke. We were able to capitalize on it very quickly, gained a lot of traction that way. And so, I was able to get attention from a lot of different people, a lot of very important people. And I actually do have a very big announcement. I can't break the silence right now, but I have a very big announcement for Sunday at 6:00 p.m. Eastern time. And again, it goes back to impacting lives. And I think with this announcement, I think we'll begin to impact a lot more lives than I ever dreamed of. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
want to throw that in there.
Well, Blue Sox Nation, for a loyal son, adopted son of Utica, if you will. Make sure to tune in. Is that going to be on your personal, or is it going to be on Juco Product on social media?
It's going to be on Juco Product Twitter and Instagram.
And at Juco Product, Guco Product.
No, Juco.
J. Yeah, that's what I don't know what the hell.
It is on right behind me.
yeah. Like, I don't know why. Like, I felt like I said J, and then like all of a sudden that didn't. So I don't know. But yeah, so Juco Product, and that's that Twitter and Instagram. That's where to be.
Yeah.
All right. And it's really funny that you brought up the announcement, because obviously we have been hyping up, albeit a little bit late, that our Blue Sox Hall of Fame is going to be expanding, and we want to honor more. And with that being said, Robbie Young, you will be the next inductee into the Blue Sox Hall of Fame this summer. It's all set. So basically what's going to happen is, you'll have that page now on uticabluesox.net, and then the official enshrinement will be this summer. Date TBA when the schedule comes out. And then with the icing on top of the cake, we just can't have that just Hall of Fame enshrinement. No one after that summer, no one will ever wear number 25 again.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. I really, yeah, I don't know. That's a cool, I kind of at a loss for words. I'm excited, blessed, thankful. Again, I wanted to give everything I had to Utica, so that means a lot.
And it's really funny. Another thing I definitely want to touch on, your family. I remember the first summer you were here. They had they traveled all over the state, watching you play. What was that experience? What was that like? Like having them. I believe they had like a camper or something, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they did. So originally, no, they didn't. So like my first 2 years, they didn't. Then they bought a camper and stayed up there for a good portion. But my family's always been super supportive of my athletic career. And when I was out in Kansas playing junior college baseball, they would always come out and watch me. And it means a lot, to have them in the stands and for them to participate and make memories just like myself. And I know they got really close with the coaches and the owners. And it's always cool to see them in the stands. And it meant a lot.
So I definitely got to touch on this because I know I asked you about where the whole new guy thing came from, but another thing that it was a personal thing for you. And I asked Taylor if he knew anything about the origins, kind of unsure. And so he kind of took a guess, but since you were so close to the source of where this originated, I got to ask, where in the world did the idea of the word potions being a catchphrase and slogan for you come from?
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, that was just something that just kind of started being said. And then we went through all those walk-offs and it just kind of stuck with it. Like, I don't know. It was crazy. Like, it was something that was kind of like a catchphrase that really didn't make any sense. But if we used enough potions for the game, we'd win. So I don't know. I don't know. To give you your answer, I don't know.
Well, I guess that just builds the mystique around it even more. Honestly, like it like just watching from afar now. Like, is it crazy just watching each new team essentially build that new identity and also different clicky things, if you will, in terms of things that are unique to that specific team. And specifically with this past year, I don't know how much of it you've seen, but something that was unique to that team, but it's definitely going to carry over because I'm presiding over and I saw how crazy it got this year. But the run scoring tradition now in Utica of Pump It Up.
Oh yeah. Anytime you kind of get a new group of guys together, you got to kind of have to build off of something, right? So like you really don't know each other, but you got to start building something. And if it is a catchphrase, if it is pump it up, if it is whatever, anything that creates that immediate chemistry is important to have. And a lot of times it just comes like oddly natural. Like it's not something forced. It's not something, that, like I said, is forced. So you just kind of, you say something and get a big hit, and then you say it again, you get another big hit. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to start saying it all the time because I need a lot of big hits. But it just kind of happens naturally.
So I feel like just the vibe of just a lot of what you've been saying. I feel like a lot of baseball players are like this, but are you superstitious, and to what extent, if you are?
I say I'm not superstitious, but I did drink a bang every single pregame. So I'm not superstitious, but like in the words of Michael Scott, I am a little stitious.
Thank you. Finally, someone said it.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think it's more of just a pattern. It becomes a habit. It becomes something that is routine, and routines are huge in baseball, right? So, I like to drink my pregame drink same time every day. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same flavor, but if I got 3 hits the day before, you're darn right I'm going to drink the same flavor. And but yeah, little stitious, but I wouldn't call myself superstitious.
Sure thing. And so another thing, I touched with T.O. because I feel like music is such an important part of baseball, because only in baseball does every single player get an individual song to come out to. And obviously yours, you mixed it up. You went down the country route a lot, but, you mixed it up with a couple, like I just think of Down and Out by Tantric, and I believe the source of inspiration, because I know I heard it from Evan Longoria, but I don't know if you got it from the same place.
Yeah, actually, I really did. I actually went and saw the Tampa Bay Rays play a couple years ago. It might have been like a year before I went up to Utica, saw how the crowd kind of erupted with his theme or with his walk-up song. And I just wanted that to be a part of Utica and a part of the history up there. But and then I think my final season, I think I went new level in honor of
Now,
Franklin
started from
Jennings.
the bottom. You went started from the bottom.
Yeah, but that was Franklin Jennings too, wasn't it?
No,
Or
that was new level. Started from the bottom was all that was all you, man.
yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you bet you were around 3 years, so you've heard your share of good and bad walk-ups.
Oh yeah.
Spill the tea. Spill the tea. Who's good? Who was bad?
Oh, dude, I don't remember. I don't remember. I wish I could.
I mean, if there's good, I mean that first summer you were. I mean, obviously, if it's just your first summer, you got to be like figuring like, okay, I got to figure out what works for me, what's good, what works for the crowd. But I feel like there's one guy. There's a book on how to make the perfect walk-up song and choose it. The only author has to be Jared Baldinelli.
Yeah, no, he did. He had a great walk-up song and still like it's played every game. I think y'all play it every game or something.
Because I try to do it to intentionally troll the other team while they're hitting BP. I mean, on top of other just either depressing or just downright awful music just to throw them off.
Yeah, no, yeah. Jared had a great walk-up song, and it's something that the crowd really could support. Like there was a ton of support for that walk-up song, so it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, mainly from like the women of age who were like teenagers when that song came out, and George Michael was like, every girl's crush at that point.
Yeah.
R.I.P. though. But no, honestly, I mean, you want to talk about, you talk about traditions, you talk about legacies. Obviously we see on paper, what your legacy is in terms of the statistics, and numbers don't lie. I mean, you're up there as one of the all-time greats in Blue Sox history, at least in the summer collegiate side. I mean, we all know about what great major leaguers have come through the system in the minors. But for you personally, how would you want your legacy to be remembered just from your time in Utica? Because obviously outside of it, you're already, pretty deep into forging it, well past your playing career.
Yeah, I guess I want to be known as somebody who works hard every day, really cares about his teammates. I want to be known, that I really do care about my teammates and care about the town, and just really want to see the best for everybody. But yeah, I really want to be known as a hard worker, a guy who plays with his emotions on his sleeve. That you can count on me just like I can count on you. Yeah, I mean that you're going to get every ounce of me, and if I lose, I lose. But I'm pretty confident that I'll win too. So, yeah, just be known for that, I guess.
And something you will be known for, obviously we made the announcement, but it'll officially be set in stone, enshrined, and all that jazz. Sometime in June or July, again, date TBA, as the next inductee into the Blue Sox Hall of Fame. Robbie Young, really appreciate it. I know it's crazy that like essentially you and I, in terms of like, that was my first year doing PA back in 2016. So I was just getting my feet wet then. And obviously that whole summer was just unforgettable in so many ways, but in the same way that I kind of like grew up with Taylor. I grew up with, a lot of the guys from that 2016 group. And obviously you being just a freshman at the time, essentially I could say the same about you. And obviously you've done great things for the city of Utica, for Juco Product, infusing that into Utica, and obviously carrying about that now into the, into the rest of collegiate athletics. So Robbie, thank you again for the time being on this episode. Again, congratulations on officially being the next inductee into the Blue Sox Hall of Fame. And next time I see you, hopefully in person, I trust me, we'll work to make sure that we get you here. But next time I see you in person, next time all of us see you in person, it'll be with that 25 in all framed up and never to be worn again.
No, I appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. I never would have thought that this would have been the ending, but I'm extremely appreciative and very humbled and gracious, and yeah, I'm excited to get up there and see everybody again.
So that's a wrap for episode number 2 of the Soxcast. Next guest TBA, but guarantee that'll be a good one. Again, for Robbie Young, I'm Tim Best wrapping up the Soxcast episode 2. We will catch y'all next time.